And it's things we've said before, but the most powerful thing about you is that you're here, still here, okay? The gospel is supposed to be good news, and you being stuck in bondage from bondage to bondage to bondage is not the good news. That's not what it's about. Whatever you believe will determine your ability to conquer whatever's had you stuck for so long. You were made to move from glory to glory to glory, not from sin to sin to sin, or hurt or offense or whatever. So remembering that he's the Lord of your present, your past, and your future will help you as you move forward from glory to glory to glory. It's that I died with Galatians 2:20 thing, right? We all died with Galatians 2:20. Died and we were crucified with Christ, now no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So if you don't know that you've died, then you're never going to truly live. Today's going to be an infomercial as for why you don't use your laptop as a cup holder, a coaster, because apparently there's a big ring of something on there. I don't remember doing that, just saying. But I have children, and I are one of them. So anyway, I just wanted to say that before we left. God loves you, but he also likes you. Something that came out during that time. There's a gospel of your life, but there's also a gospel of your death, and that is that you died with Christ. You were crucified with Christ. It's no longer you who live, but Christ who lives in you. Meaning that your spirit is 100% your spirit is where it can be. It is made into perfection. So we can fight to get spiritual strength all we want to. Really, it's soul strength that we're searching for. We're trying to repair parts of our soul, which has nothing to do with tonight. But I felt like I needed to say it. Remember, he is the God of your present, your past, and your future. Amen? All right. If you're under the age of old and still in school, peace out. Peace out, tub grout. All that good stuff. Yep. Miss Rachel, I have your notes. I actually filled them in for you with my left-handed, serial killer handwriting. Yes. If I wasn't going to be a pastor, I guess I could have been one of those because I have the same handwriting as a serial killer. So, all right, we are on Devilution Part 5. I don't know, I've watched a lot of movies and TV shows, and we went to a seminar one time, be a pastor or a murderer, which one? And I chose the one that pays less. But anyway, Lord forgive me for being ignorant. All right, here we go. I got to pull up. I have to look at slides tonight, so I'll make sure I'm going along with y'all in the right place. But 2 weeks ago, I gave you 20 physical evidences that the universe probably maybe is not as old as they say it is. I went over them again last week really quickly. It's like some of them, just to run over quickly, is the loss of the mass of our sun. Our sun burns. It's a big ball of burning gas. That's what it does. It burns. We lose 5 feet per second in diameter of the sun. If we were even 1 million years old and the solar system was that old, then it should be so hot that nothing could have ever survived on our planet. At 1 billion years old, it'd have been touching the earth. And the sun, as far as we know, they don't usually combust and then grow and shrink and grow and shrink. They usually combust and go to shrinking down from there. But for what we say we know. Anyway, Jupiter is another thing. We have Jupiter is cooling off twice as fast as it gains heat from the sun. If we were in the millions or the billions, it'd be a dead planet. There'd be no heat from it at all. Cosmic dust, we can actually measure cosmic dust that falls on surfaces, especially the moon, since it has no atmosphere. They assumed that the moon was going to have 60 feet of cosmic dust because it was supposed to be 3.4 billion years old. That's why they put those big saucer things on the bottom of the spacecraft. When Neil Armstrong jumps off the moon, there's half an inch, which would be around, they say we take in an inch of cosmic dust per 10,000 years. So that's just the physical evidence we talked about. Last week, we started talking about proof of the flood. We're going to hit on flood and dinosaurs tonight. Everybody's favorite topic, dinosaurs. So you don't have any fill in the blanks tonight. I filled them all in for you. Just because of timing and things like that. So We have seen so far the Bible clearly describes a global flood. It is not a local flood. If you break the Hebrew down, there's nothing local about it. If it's a region, if it really means that it flooded the region, then it also means in Genesis 1 that God created the heavens and the region. So it doesn't work out. There's very strong historical evidence that supports the flood. We've talked about 250 different ancient cultures that each have a flood story in their history that pretty much matches very closely to the Bible's accounts. There's 33 primary ancient cultures. All 33 have a flood history that where man was destroyed, there was a global flood, and 31 of the 33 say that the reason there's life on this planet is one man and his family were saved. That was it. So there's very strong geological evidence supporting the flood. We see the Grand Canyon and things like that, where if it really did take all those years for the Grand Canyon to erode, for the Colorado River to erode the Grand Canyon, I have to look at the fact that where the Colorado River starts is lower than in elevation than where the top of the Grand Canyon is here, which means that it would have had to run which way uphill for thousands of years before it eroded enough for it to run downhill. So we have fossil evidence that supports the flood. And I have a slide on the vapor canopy. We've talked about this almost every week, that prior to the flood, many people that believe the world was surrounded with a vapor canopy. There's a lot of scriptures that illustrate this as well. Especially if you look in King James and you go back and look through the Hebrew, when it talks about the firmament and the expanse between the waters. The expanse is where the birds flew. I showed you that last week in scripture. The expanse between the waters of the heavens and the waters in the earth, the waters underground. So this would be a canopy of ice crystals basically around the earth. Then the waters of the deep erupted, as Genesis tells us. As it erupts, the super hot water erupts, volcanoes erupt, and the ice crystals dissipate, and it rains for 40 days. And it keeps raining. It's never rained before. Can you imagine being Noah? What are you building that for? It's going to rain. What's rain? I don't know. God just said so. Yeah, God tell you to do something that just seemed ignorant to everybody else? Imagine Noah. Boy, them jokers were jealous when it started raining, though, and the water started busting out of the caverns. I will, in the next couple of weeks, I'll show you some geological evidences of when I talk about when the Bible says the caverns of the deep erupted or burst forth. And that's what the mass of the flood was, really stuff that was already in the earth, water that was in the earth. The only way for it to drain is for those caverns to then collapse on themselves. So this was like a huge ordeal. I'd have liked to be around when the flood happened. No, you wouldn't want to be here. You wouldn't want to be here when God was creating the earth either. Things happen that have never happened again. Give me the second slide. That's just a close-up of the caverns, what they imagine the caverns to be like. We have some proof of this. We really have quite a bit of it. Hydro expansion theory has been proven along with tectonic plate movements, which I talked about that on week 1, that as the caverns burst forth, the water burst forth out of the earth, it would cause the continents, it would cause the plates to shift rapidly in different areas. So it may have not taken billions of years for Pangea to break apart. It could have taken moments. And I wouldn't want to be on any of them. So, all right. So we have that. We have dinosaurs is the next thing. Dinosaurs are just reptiles. And reptiles never stop growing as long as they live. Recently, I think it was 2005, there was a gator killed in near Willis, Texas, I want to say. Y'all see the picture on Facebook all the time. It's the same one. You have they're holding them up with the forklift. Humongous. It's a 23-foot alligator. I'm from Louisiana, okay? 12 is big. 12 is a man-eater. 12 will hurt you bad. 6 will hurt you, but you'll win, maybe. 12 you don't want to mess with. 19 maybe some of the largest that are ever recorded. 23 foot. We're not crocodile, alligator in Texas. 23 feet. They don't stop growing. As long as they live, they grow, they grow, they grow. They don't get past 12 because we have hunting licenses. And we can shoot them. We don't have to just beat them now. So, that's my point, is maybe the dinosaurs were just really old lizards. So, So does the Bible record dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are used almost more than anything else to indoctrinate children with the evolution philosophy, religion. And it's used for adults too, and they push this millions of years through that. And I've been since the beginning of this. I am not trying to change. I'm not trying to change your viewpoint as much as I am. I want you to see that evolution is just as much a religion as Christianity is. It's just as much of a philosophy as anything else. They have zero proof. I have proven that over the last 4 weeks. Their proof is nothing. By their own admission, they decided to go with this, even though it was proven false, because they did not want to have to believe in a God. Nobel Prize winner saying this. So the Bible does give us a framework that kind of explains dinosaurs somewhat in terms of thousands of years of history, if we're looking at it biblically. So according to evolutionists, real fast, dinosaurs must have evolved 235 million years ago, way before man. No human ever lived with dinosaurs. Now that's their key thing. No human ever lived with dinosaurs. So if we found fossilized dinosaur footprints with human footprints inside them and around them, tracking them, what are we going to do with that? Okay, hide it. That's right. The way they record their history in the fossil layers of the earth, which are deposited over millions of years, is the way they say it. Dinosaurs were so successful as a group of animals, they eventually ruled the earth. How many of you remember hearing that in school? Dinosaurs ruled the earth. Thank you, Carl Sagan. 65 million years ago, something happened, and they all disappeared. A lot of people think it was an asteroid that killed them, but there are a lot of evolutionists that claim that they are not extinct. They just merely changed into birds. Which, I'll be honest, I mean, look at a raptor and look at a chicken. They kind of move the same. I'm not saying it's what happened. I'm just saying. We don't really know what they move like. Yes, sir. Ling. Yes. The limb. Ah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, actually. That is brilliant. I'm glad you said that because it brought up something else. Do y'all know who Richard Dawkins is? Anybody? Let me make sure I have it. Richard Dawkins. He is the leading atheist in the world. Like if there's I guess they have clubs or titles or something, but he's like the leading atheist in the world. He calls himself an evangelist for evolution. You'll see him debate other apologetic creationists. And he actually wrote a book years ago called Outgrowing God, which is what made him big. He has a new one, Outgrowing God for Beginners. It's made for your children. It is a children's book. But he says this. He is speaking on the complexity of the human eye when he says this. Darwin, towards the end of his life, said, when we look at the complexity of the eye, not even the human eye, but the eye, there's no way there's been enough years for that to evolve. That's Darwin himself. So Dawkins says this, speaking on the complexity of the human eye, from no eyes to the complexity of the human eye. Each step is a random piece of evolutionary growth that's not very impressive in itself. As a matter of fact, they better not be impressive because then it would be a miracle, and the whole point of evolution is it gets us up the Mount Improbable without the need of miracles. So basically, it gets us the answers we need without God. Complexity of the human eye is something they can't explain. When you are growing in your mother's womb, there are a million nerve endings that leave your eyeball that find their perfect match, a million nerve endings from your brain. And they have to match perfectly or you don't see. And on average, statistically, it usually works. A million nerve endings from your eyeball to your brain that find their perfect match in your mother's womb. That is amazing. If you ever watch any of the Louis Giglio series, he'll talk about this, the How Great Is Our God or the Indescribable series. where magically, right after those million come together, this little slit occurs in the skin that creates your eyelids. So anyway, yeah, Dawkins basically, that just got me on that. But according to evolutionists. According to the Bible, dinosaurs probably existed 6,000 years ago. First, God made them along with other land animals. Day 6 creation. Why am I saying that? Because it says he created all living things on the earth on day 6. All the animals, everything in man was created on day 6. Genesis 1:25, God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind, and God saw that it was good. If we go to the gap theory or the day-age theory that says that dinosaurs existed before the fall of Satan, before man was here, and they were ruining the earth, and God had to destroy the earth, then there's no way God could have said anything was good. Adam and Eve were also made on day 6, so dinosaurs had to live at the same time as people, not separated by eons of time. I have broken the gap theory and the day-age theory down for you. I will do it again starting next week. I'll give you pictures of the men and slides and how their little theology came about. But I think after the flood, about 4,500 years ago, there was a remnant of land animals on the ark that included dinosaurs, possibly. How could they have fit? They didn't have to take grown-ups. If I have to take elephants with me, I don't want to take grown elephants. Give me 2 babies. Give me a male and a female littling. I don't want to have to feed grown-ups the whole time. I think they lived in this present world, and by present world, I mean post-flood world for a little while, some of them at least. So, but because of sin and the judgments of the curse and the flood itself, all those things greatly changed the earth itself and the atmosphere. And so the post-flood climatic change, lack of food, disease, then man's activities as the population grew, caused many types of animals to become extinct. The dodo bird is a real bird, in case you don't know that went extinct really fast as soon as some honkies found the land. As soon as white boy found the land, we had guns and we was going hunting. We did. We almost killed all the Galapagos turtles out, I think. And if we didn't kill some of them off, we did. As soon as we got there, within years, the last dodo bird was killed because a scientist wanted one of them. So hunters were sent out. They killed the last specimen and brought it to him dead in the name of science. So anyway, it's a big, goofy-looking bird too. Anyway, so let's go through the next 3 slides, 35, 36, 37. All right. Nope. Right after that, you should have 3 in line. Do you not have Hawaii? So it should be, never mind. My bad. Go back up. Go through that. I did go out of order. Go back to the top one. I'm going to go over those real fast. No, go back to the one you had clicked first. Is that it? That's it. Okay, long after. That is a anchor. We're going to go back to the next one in a second. That's an anchor. I'm going to get to that in a second. But unless you're in a different order, I am over here. But Hawaii should be number 3. That's an anchor. There's dozens of these things by Mount Ararat. They would have held the ship in waves, okay? And we'll get to that in a second. But Hawaii. So, Hawaii. This is their story of the flood, that the world became a terrible place to live. There was one good man left, Nuyu. That was his name, Nuyu. Next. Next slide. I'm women. Okay. Gotcha. He has a great canoe or an ark, right? It has a house on it. It's filled with animals. The waters came up over all the earth and killed all the people. Only he and his family were saved. That was it. That's their story of the flood. The next is in China. There's an ancient Chinese classic story. The Chinese considered this guy to be the father of their civilization. Go to the next. All right. So history records this, that he made a history records that he, his wife, 3 sons, and 3 daughters. How many people is that? That's 8. How many people were on the ark? Noah, his wife, 3 sons, 3 wives, or 3 daughters. Okay. 8 people escaped the great flood. He and his family were the only people alive on the earth, and they repopulated the world. Sound familiar? Okay, next. We're actually going to do now the 3 through 34 that I meant to do. Toltec Indians of ancient Mexico said the first world lasted 1,716 years and was destroyed by a great flood that covered the highest mountains. The Bible says it covered the tallest mountains on the earth. Only one family survived. Y'all can pronounce it if you want to. Okay. There you go. All right. They teach 1,716 years ago. The Bible, if you look at the Bible dates the flood at 1,656 years ago. They're 60 years off. That's it. 60 years in 4,000 years time span, I don't think is very bad. Because right now, I think I was in high school like 80 years ago. But I wasn't. So next, I want to give you a picture of Mount Ararat. Nope. Pass it on up. All right. On a map, there is Mount Ararat. Understand that Ararat is a region of mountains as well, okay, in Turkey. Next. Right there where Mount Ararat is, that's hard for you to see, there is a town called, how do you pronounce it? It's Nahum Jimese, I think. It stands for Noah's Big Boat. Those right there put together stands for Noah's Big Boat. That's the name of the town, the area. So, next. The ark rested on the 7th month upon the mountains of Ararat. So not Mount Ararat necessarily, but the mountains, the range of mountains there. It's important, I give you the next one. People look for it all over the place, and they're always looking at Mount Ararat, but there's a whole range of mountains there to look at. There's a picture of Mount Ararat in the next one. Just ta-da. However, there have been tons of expeditions. Now, there's an aerial photograph next. That comes from the U.S. That was from the United States Air Force. They started saying that they believe that was the ark. Next. This is from Life magazine, claiming it to be the ark. Now the next one. This is cool. All right, this spot measures this is on the range of Mount Ararat. It rests, it measures it measures the same measurements of the ark. After an earthquake in 1978, there's picture 1 and picture 2 where they thought the ribs were exposed. Now, this is iffy. There's 2 sites I think are very probable. But next, picture of that from the sky. Next. So that's the actual ground. With deterioration as it would fall down, they thought that's their theory. I'm just giving you their theory. But I want to give you the next one, which is radar scans of that area. Radar scans of the area show wooden beams in the ground at those lengths, at those distances in that area. The next. This is drawings on top of the radar scan in the top corner of what the wood shows to be. Other radar scans of what they found, they drew out. Next. These are actually fossilized rivets and pattern metal that they found. Some of them they found, some of them are readings. Next. More of it. There's one more, I think. Give me the next one. The iron rivets. Okay. Could be from a million things. I get it. But the next picture is a cutaway of a piece of wood that's found. They have this layer of wood up top, a glue substance, and then another layer, a glue substance, another layer. Next. Okay, it's hard to see that, but where this was found, where the mountains are there, is called Kazan. The name of the town is Kazan. What's that mean? It translates into village of the 8. You following me? It translates into village of the 8 people. Around Village at the 8th, there's those huge anchor stones I was talking about. Give me the modern day Turkey, yeah, Kazan. Now, here's the article from there. Government confirms this is Noah's Ark. You haven't heard any of this, have you? Government confirms. They confirm it so much in the next picture, they have a visitor center for Noah's Ark. That's how much they confirm it. They built a visitor center. Now we get to number 9,000, which is the anchors. These are basically counterweights is what they are for the ark. There's been hundreds of studies done that a boat that big would not survive, that it would twist apart, that it would break apart, and we're taking out the account of God's hand being in this thing at that too. But there's so many things we can get into, like what's called a moon pool that are made in the middle of ships for waves to be able to keep the ship from twisting and buckling. But that's just one picture of one of these anchors. A basic ship anchor, they have hundreds of them in the Sea of Galilee, or in the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, hundreds of them like this. They're basically no more than a foot and a half, maybe, it tall, not 7 feet tall, 6 feet tall, 5 feet tall. This is a huge ship. Next picture is just another one. Got a bunch of little crosses cut into it, but I don't believe that was Noah. Easy. I'd hate to have to. Can you imagine how, unless they were chiseled in place or moved to place, chiseled in place, tied to the ark, and then the waters erupted. There's rope holes in the anchor stones that you can see have been made. They cut away. The next picture gives you an actual diagram of what it would look like. And it's basically just counterbalance is what it's for. I'm telling you. Now, the 34, does anybody know who Josephus is? Josephus is a historian. A lot of the information that we have about just biblical history comes from Josephus. He was a Jew, wrote about Jesus. He's one of the historical accounts outside of the Bible we have of Jesus, not to mention the 500 disciples that saw Jesus walk after the crucifixion and the tomb. But Josephus writes this in his book. What I have underlined there, he basically says rain poured down for 40 days, covering the earth a depth of 15 cubits. The rain stopped, the flood continued for 150 days until the water level started dropping. And he goes on and he goes on and he goes on. And right underneath, it talks about the landing place. And what I highlighted there says they show its remains to this day. Josephus is post-Christ. And they show the remains to this day. Possibly. Now I have the next 35, 37. Now, jumping back to dinosaurs real fast. Dinosaurs on the ark. Why? Let's say they were leaving the ark. They left to a very hostile climate. Very hostile climate now. Okay? The climate's not the same. Things aren't going to be the same. They probably died from climate changes within a few hundred years, possibly. And I say that because of the next slide. The average age of man post-flood was 912 years. 912 years. After the flood, you see it decrease rapidly to 70, 80. Yes, I know God said, I cannot put up with man for so long. His age will be no longer than 120 years. Get that, but we see post-flood is when it really starts taking effect. Next one. This is showing grandkids, 400, 200, 100 years, how fast it dropped. And Noah was 600 years old when he went onto the ark. 600? I'm 40 and I don't want to build something that big. There's no way. I'd hate to, just looking at that stone hurts me sometimes. All right. Then that was it for now. Okay, we're going to get to the next one in a second. But you see that if man's age declined like that, we're in a totally different environment too. So it's possible there's dozens of different animals that went out, hundreds of them. So why do we have such different views between creationists and evolutionists? Well, we don't like each other apparently. But Job 38:4 says, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? God asked him, where were you when I did all this? Tell me if you know so much. Paleontology is the study of fossils or bones. And like politics, their passions run very high. It just does. It's easy to draw different conclusions. We do it with politics every day. If you take a paleontologist that believes in the biblical record, then they're going to come to a different conclusion than an atheist who rejects it. Willful denial of God's word is the root to many, many disputes of historical science. So 2 Peter 3:3 says, most importantly, I want to remind you that in the last days, scoffers will come mocking the truth and following their own desires. Evolutionists claim dinosaurs millions of years ago. But simply on a logical point here, when they dig up a dinosaur bone, it does not have like a card stuck to it with a date of death or anything. It doesn't have a label attached. They obtain their dates by very, very indirect dating methods that even other scientists question. Do you know that there are hundreds and hundreds of paleontologists, cosmologists, scientists, geologists that are creationists, that fully believe and show this, that never get talked about? These are men with the same PhDs. They spent way too much money on school as well, just like the other guys did. They never get talked about. They're never brought up. Our school charters say, I think that was it last week I showed you all the slide, Texas school, the Board of Education in Texas says that textbooks have to have the most latest factual evidences in them. And theories have to be clearly listed as theories with no opinions or biases from the author whatsoever. They go against their own law because first, the Big Bang is not truth. It's still a theory. That's all we know. Evolution is a theory as well. But in our own textbooks in Texas, the first line in the biology book I showed you is evolution is a fact. Do you know that do you know what public schools, up until 1960, we had what was really called a public school, where parents were truly involved. Parents in that school system could decide what the curriculum was in each individual school. So in 1960, what we went to was government schools. That's what we have now. We have government schools. We don't have a public school system anymore. And they're using our tax dollars to peddle whatever information they want to. And my issue with this is if we can prove so easily this, I mean, seminary school boy can come up with logical reasons that their stuff is flawed and they're allowed to teach that. Why can't we even pray in school? Why can't our kids talk about Jesus openly? Why can't their textbooks talk about the history of who Christ was? Even the history, that's real. We know that. There's no faith behind that. There's Roman records of him. The government school system, not a public school system. Just today, how many of y'all know who Todd Hudnall is? Okay, Todd Hudnall just today in Colorado mentioned that they're pulling their kids out. I didn't know Todd was young enough to have kids. I know that his pastor after him, Andy, ain't no way Andy has any kids in school. But yeah, they're pulling their kids out of public school because of things that are going on in Colorado. And the new norm is going to be this row. By the way, these are the people you want to talk to. Not him. He's great. Charlie's great, but you don't want to talk to him about school. But the two ladies next to him, yep, that's who you want to talk to. Okay. I don't know why. She just wants to talk to you. No, homeschool stuff, right? All right. Anyway, and I think that's going to be the norm. I think you're going forward. I think COVID was what pushed it along, but going forward, you're going to see a lot more families go back to homeschool stuff. My youngest is 15, and I probably would shoot him. So we're just going to pray for the best. But they do get to teach what they want to teach there. They're teaching cubicle mentality. If you can think about the cubicles in offices, that's the mentality. That's what they're training our kids to do. Standardized testing is garbage. This is not part of my stuff today, but Einstein himself said, if you were to judge a fish based on his ability to climb a tree, it'd be a horrible fish. I know some brilliant kids that can't pass those tests. They're brilliant kids, and they tell themselves they're stupid. Anyway, all right. So, slide 38, the bone, soft tissue. I need to move forward. Soft tissue discovered in the bone of a dinosaur. What? Soft tissue in a T-Rex bone. This was in Montana. There is physical evidence that dinosaur bones aren't millions of years old. University of Montana, they found in a T-Rex bone soft tissue. They actually found it wasn't totally fossilized. It was fresh bone. It contained what seemed to be cells of hemoglobin or blood, red blood cells. If the bones were millions of years old, under no conditions could they still have red blood cells in them. So this professor at the University of Montana is the one that started cutting up every bone he had in his paleontology area. He cut every one and started searching them and looking, and he finds soft tissue in almost every fossilized bone. And he reports his findings the next week. He gets this big convention together. He's told by a colleague, don't do this, it's suicide. He said, how is it suicide? It's got to be the truth. Now, this is an atheistic man. This man did not believe in God. He did not believe in creation. He believed in evolution all the way. When he found this, it messed him up, and he gives his whole seminar. He said, my professional opinion here is these bones can't be more than 10,000 years old. He was fired within an hour. He's now funded by a bunch of Christians. So, anyway, there shouldn't be fresh bones. I'm not sure, probably so. If it did, then we got to talk about the bird thing then. I mean, all right, slide 39. All right, this is a picture, it's a rendering of a creature called Mekele Membe. I really should have worked on that better, but explorers in Africa, okay, have reported sighting dinosaur-like creatures very recently. They're usually confined to very out-of-the-way places in the Congo and places like that, or deep lakes in the area, but descriptions fit those of dinosaurs. When they were going through and they were trying to explain to them what Mekele Membe was, what is this creature, they brought pictures out. They thought it was an alligator crocodile, and the people shook their heads and, no, we have those, but they're bigger. No, it's not him. So on a spoof, they just bring a dinosaur book, and this is what they point to. That's what's been drawn since. Okay, these are people that had never been reached by anyone. They don't have dinosaur books. They don't have Carl Sagan stuff available on DVD. They don't even know what a DVD is. They've never seen a television. The first plane they saw was the one that flew over to drop these people off. First helicopter they saw, they were throwing spears at the helicopter as it was landing because they thought it was some kind of evil demon god. So they haven't seen anything on dinosaurs. Just saying. Descriptions fit that. Slide, let's see, 40. This is a pictograph in the Grand Canyon. I know it's very hard to see, but that's a very dinosaurous character right there. I think the next one is a little bit more up close. There you go. I don't know what else it could be. I'm just saying. Now, cave paintings by Native Americans all over this country depict dinosaurs. Now, they also depict mammoths. And what's funny is the scientists will point at the mammoths and go, see how Native man drew mammoths? But then they totally ignore the dinosaurs one. They don't talk about it at all. It must have been a creature of imagination, yet it fits what we know of very, very closely. So, and it's because this indoctrination is so deep. I mean, evolutionary indoctrination is so deep that man did not live with the dinosaurs that most scientists won't even consider that it's possibly a dinosaur. They won't even look at it. I can't help but to look at it and go, that looks like a dinosaur. But I'm biased. But anyway, give me the next one. It's another close-up. Oh, no, that's a book that was drawn about prehistoric man. That's the drawing on the cover, I mean. So go to the next slide. I'm going to kind of mess you up. Okay, that's fine right there. Yeah, keep that there. Because you're going to go, I've never read that. No, you probably haven't. Now, Frank has, but y'all haven't. It's okay. Recently, villagers digging in China, a tiny dinosaur that was in the belly of a mammal. I taught about this last year. A dinosaur in the belly of a mammal, which goes against everything they ever taught on the Cretaceous period. Okay, that's when they say it came from. So a mammal ate a dinosaur. The mammal was about the size of a possum. Okay, the dinosaur was a little bitty thing. But everything we've always been taught goes the other way around. Mammals were tiny, tiny creatures, and the dinosaurs were their predators. Even the scientists, the paleontologists studying this stuff said this messes up everything we know about the Cretaceous period. Figure that out. Now, what about the Bible? This is in the Catholic Bible. It's in the Apocrypha text called Baal and the Dragon, if you ever are looking it up. My big thing is this. If you can get Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John down really well, then go to read whatever you want to. Okay? But try to get those down first. But this is in the book of Daniel in the Catholic Bible. It's been taken out of the Protestant Bible. Well, I don't know what Martin Luther had wrong with this part of the Apocrypha because I think it fits perfectly. But it says there was a great dragon in that place and the Babylonians worshipped him. Such a cool story. It really is. I know I'm moving around some, but next. And the king said to Daniel, behold, what can you say about this? Is this not a living God? Adore him. Not Daniel. We think of Daniel as a very meek, prayerful man, but who stood on his own moral values, right? No, this is why I think. Next says, Daniel said, I adore the Lord my God, for he's living God, but that is no living God. That's no God there. He goes on in the next verse. He asked the king permission to kill the dragon that they worshipped in Babylon. Gave him permission. Without a sword, without a club, I'll show you it's not a god. Next verse. Took pitch and fat and hair and he boiled them together and he made them into lumps and he put them in the dragon's mouth and the dragon burst, blowed up. The first IED. It's in Baal and the Dragon. There's another story that talks about the high priest of Baal. The same king says, well, how can you explain this? We give an offering to the temple every night. In the morning it's gone. He said, give me leave to stay in this temple overnight. Do what I want to do, and I'll show you that it's not real. And he spreads flour all over the floor without the high priest knowing. The next morning, him and the king go in, and what happens? There's little footsteps going from where the offering tray is to back behind the statue of the pagan god, and that goes to a secret door that goes downstairs where the priests were eating all the food every night. Daniel was a beast. He took out false gods, and he uplifted Jehovah in everything. So why does all this matter? Why does it all matter before I get into the rest of this? Sure, aren't there more important things we can talk about like abortion and things like that? Politics, racism, family breakdown, promiscuity, dishonesty, homosexual behavior, suicide, lawlessness, pornography. Aren't there more important things we can talk about than this? Shouldn't we just be telling people about Jesus? Yeah, I agree. But evolutionist teachings on dinosaurs and evolution itself they pervade our society so much that when man thinks that they don't need God, because man is just getting better and better, then that's what makes all the things I just listed above get greater and greater and greater upon the earth. So yeah, I think we need to know, we need to be able to back up what we say we believe. Because if you can't believe the first 10 words of the Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, if you can't believe that, then you can't believe the rest of it. And if dinosaurs lived millions and millions of years before man ever existed, that means that Genesis is wrong. That means that God lied. That means the Bible's false. And what are you even doing here? You either believe it or you don't. The implications are that if we accept their teachings, that's the implications, then the Bible's false. Without God, anything goes. I think dinosaurs probably lived with man. We have a lot of proof of that. 44, I already did those. 49, next one. This is another drawing, Lake Superior, here in the States, if you can see it. It's a horned creature with a bunch of scales on its back. Next, it's a little bit different, better picture of it. Next one. This is on Australia, very well detailed, by the way. I don't know what kind of paint the Aborigines had, but it was better than what we had here in America, apparently. But that does not look like a fish or a giraffe. It looks like a plesiosaur. Next slide. Thousands and thousands of legends of people seeing or killing dragons. Why doesn't the Bible talk about dinosaurs? We didn't get the word until 1841. Boy, you're way ahead of me there. Awesome. Good jumping on that. The word dinosaur was coined in 1841. Before that, they were always known as dragons. Next slide shows an 1891 dictionary. The word dinosaur didn't exist in the American Dictionary in 1891. There's scriptures like Deuteronomy 32 that says their wine is the poison of dragons. Psalm 74 breaks the heads of dragons in the waters. Dragons are mentioned by name, dragons, 34 times in the Bible. Now, if we want to also go with sea monsters, Leviathan, Behemoth, it's 200 and something times. 200 and something times that dragons or behemoth or sea monsters or creatures that point to that are mentioned in the Bible. Yo.
Are those names still found?
They are. They're found in most of them. Now, the King James actually, in Genesis 1, there's a place where he talks about creating the creatures of the sea, and when it actually translates into the monsters of the sea or the sea monsters. King James 1900 translated into the whales. Okay, but the Hebrew word there, tannin or tanim, is dragons everywhere else, or monsters everywhere else. So this is a 1946 dictionary. It says dragon in the dictionary. First thing, now rare. Not gone, not extinct, not never exist. It says now, I love it. Now very rare. Someone needs your attention. Because they are ringing you. Tell them, hey, we're at church. We are welcome to come. We love them. Now, what could have killed stuff off? Give me the next one. Population chart. Human population chart. We don't really know what it was before the flood. We just know it was evil. Okay? So it died down to about 8 people because of the flood, and then it started to grow. At the birth of Christ, there was 250,000 people on the planet. By 1800, it starts growing rapidly. Okay, what does man do? We hunt stuff, we kill stuff, we conquer. That's what we do. We conquer. Of course, things are going to be killed off and they're going to die out. Next. Okay, you didn't keep my hunting guy in there. Good. Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which has a flood story in it. In the story, there's a story about him killing the dragon, slaying a dragon. Next. Chinese legend tells of a famous man, the same guy, Yu, after the Great Flood, he surveyed the land of China, divided into sections, built channels to drain the water out to the sea. Next, it says that he helped make the land livable again. Many snakes and dragons were driven from the marshlands when he created the farmlands. Okay, could dragons be snakes? Well, I guess it says snakes and dragons. Chinese zodiac. That's a picture of the Chinese zodiac. Why would they have 11 real animals and one mythical creature? Now, I'm not saying that actually existed. I'm just saying, why 11 real animals and a mythical creature? Next, this is a slate plate. He's the first pharaoh from the first pharaoh of Egypt. I don't know if you can tell, but can you see the long-necked dinosaurs in the middle of it? Depicted on both sides? First pharaoh of Egypt. Why would people put dinosaurs on their artwork if they had never seen them? Next is the same thing, it's a carving of our picture of it. A little bit more up close on the next one. Okay, I have another slate plate here that has these serpent-like creatures. If you look at the long necks at the very bottom, you have the 4 legs in the body. A little bit more mythical looking, I understand that, but give me the next one. In the middle of this hippo tusk, we call it a magic wand, okay, 12th century BC, Egypt. You see a very long-necked creature depicted right there. Then we have a cylinder from the 4th millennium BC. Tells us at the very top of it, you see the same long-necked creatures depicted. These cylinders, what they were used for, I don't know if I have a picture of the clay, but what they were used for is you would lay out clay and they would roll the cylinder along the clay and it would tell the story. Isaiah 14 says, "Rejoice, not thou, whole Palestine," is what it's saying, "because the rod of him that smote thee is broken." And it goes on, "For the serpent's root shall come forth And his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent, which just sounds like biblical talk until you get into Herodotus. Herodotus is a very famous Greek historian. Everybody, we take everything he says as fact except for this, by the way. 440 BC, he said, I went once to a certain place in Arabia, almost opposite of Budo, it says, making inquiries about the winged serpents. Herodotus had heard about winged serpents. He wanted to check them out. Upon his arrival, he sees what? Bones upon bones upon bones of these creatures. Bones and bones and bones. Such numbers it was impossible to describe. Winged serpent is shaped like the water snake, but its wings are not feathered, but resemble those of a bat. 440 BC, Greek historian. Yes, please. Yes. Very possible. Fit in, which I have pictures, not today, but I have pictures of that too. I didn't have the name though. I'm glad you gave me that because I just had bird, Indian. So, but say it again. Thank you. Okay, I have the Thunderbird too in there. The fact that the Thunderbirds seem like pterodactyls. So he says that the ribs were a multitude of heaps, and it goes on, the place where the bones lie is at the entrance of a narrow gorge. Now, that's Herodotus. Now let's go back to Josephus. Josephus, a historian, Jewish historian, talks about this plain in between Egypt. With the spring, the winged snakes come flying from Arabia towards Egypt. The winged snakes, the winged serpents. He goes on to talk about it more, the fierceness that some of them ascend out of the ground, but they also fly in the air, and so they come upon men that are unaware. Now it goes on to talk about what Moses did to fix this. Okay, did I miss it? Let's see. Fly in the air. There, no, it should say Moses. It says Moses invented a wonderful strategy to preserve them. There it is. The army, to keep the army safe. This is what he did. He made baskets like arks, sedge, and he filled this with ibis, okay, a bird. Carried them along. That animal is the greatest enemy of the serpents. So they would fly out of these baskets, these arks. Go on. He says, when they would come near, they would basically let it go. These are tame creatures that the Jews had, that Moses had. They're very tame, but they hate the fiery serpents. They devour them. They're only enemies to the serpentine kind. Next. As Moses was come to the land, which is the breeder of these serpents, he let loose the ibis. Another historian, Greek historian, Herodotus, that talks about the ibises that attack the serpent. So you have two historians, two totally different times that make the same account of these bird-like creatures that kill these flying serpents. Just saying. Okay? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. 793 AD, Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This year came dreadful forewarnings over the land. It goes on to talk about fiery dragons across the firmament. Next, the walls of Babylon. One of the things Saddam did for us is he dug up ancient Babylon. Actually called himself the great-grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Saddam, they tell us, means prince. I'm pretty sure it means, I've checked that out. It really translates more into horse's rear end. I'm serious. I'm not picking. I'm really being serious. Translation really loosely translates to the rear area of a horse. So, hey, maybe so. But as he dug up the ancient Babylonian sites, he said the great Babylon has risen again. This is the gate. This is part of the wall leading to the gate of Babylon. There are lions and dragons on it. Now, there's another picture of it that shows a lion, very plainly a lion. And next, one of the dragons. Now, this is in the Berlin Museum now. But there's actually in Iraq, this dude is burning up, by the way. It's probably 111 million degrees. But above him, on either side, you see these long-necked dragon-like creatures on the walls of Babylon. Next. Oh, I got to finish up. It's a model of the Ishtar Gate. Ishtar, I've talked about Ishtar before. People knew about dinosaurs in 600 BC. They put them on the city walls. I don't see any other way. I've got 2 more pictures of that. This is actually in the reconstructed gate that somehow we didn't blow up, but just saying. Alexander the Great said he conquered a dragon. He was in India at 326 BC. His soldiers were scared of the dragons that lived in caves. They talked about the dragons were docile creatures, but one actually hissed. They would hiss at his men, and this one hissed at his men, and they actually attacked it, even though the Indians told them not to. I think I have a Roman mosaic showing 2 dragons, long-necked dragons in the 2nd century AD. A Palestinian mosaic that shows a dinosaur next. Give me one more. I believe so. They seem to be pets. You have this one in the corner. I don't know. Looks like a dinosaur to me. There's others over there. But Egypt all the way to Ethiopia, it depicts animals that are dinosaur-like. Then we have the story of St. George, who slayed a dragon in 275 AD. He was martyred for his faith, April 23rd. The patron saint of England. Next, there's this has a dragon. It's talking about how it can kill an elephant. It wraps around, it doesn't use its teeth, but uses its tail. It's probably a description they say that applies to a python, but I have never seen a python kill an elephant. Of course, I'm not around a whole lot of elephants, though, so I really couldn't tell you. Or pythons, yeah. Next. Beowulf. These are kids' toys, but the story Beowulf talks about him slaying the dragon Grendel by cutting off one of his tiny arms. Give me the picture of Beowulf's writing. That's Beowulf in English, by the way. You don't think language changes? I can't even read that. I have no clue what that says, but it's my language, apparently. When did I say Bonics? Anyway. Skip 2, go to the next one. Babylonian cylinder seal. I'm almost done with these, but I've told you I was going to throw pictures at you in evidence. Give me the Stegosaurus. 900 AD, there's an Irish writer that writes of an animal with iron nails on its tail and the head similar to a horse. It had thick legs and strong jaws. Let's see, where are we at? We have a Viking wood carving that shows this serpent eating a person, actually. Marco Polo lived in China for 17 years, around 1271 AD. He reported the emperor raised dragons to pull his chariots in parades and never explained what it is. In 1611, the emperor appointed the post of a royal dragon feeder. Part of his court was a royal dragon feeder. Books even tell of Chinese families that raise dragons. I know it's a part of their culture. I get that. Next, another carving. This was done by men, by the way, or women, but humans, ancient humans, and those pretty much depict dinosaurs, but they had never lived with them. Next, the coin from 1587 showing men slaying a dragon. I have 7 pictures of these from 1587 all the way to 1700, and they each show the same thing from different countries. I didn't put them on here tonight. Russian medallion shows a man on a horse slaying a dragon. This is a stamp from Bulgaria. How about the crest of Lithuania? That's a dinosaur. Man on a horse slaying it. In the city of in France, okay? Because I would not pronounce it right. I can pronounce it phonetically, but I am not French. So it was renamed in honor of the dragon that was slain. Bigger than an ox, having 3 long sharp horns on top of its head. Then we have another cave drawing. I mean, that's hard to see from where you're sitting, but it don't look like a horse. I have a thing that talks about, this was actually an article, so some prehistoric man, the fact that some prehistoric man made a pictograph of a dinosaur on the walls of this canyon upsets completely all of our theories regarding the antiquity of man. Facts are stubborn things, he says. I love it. Go ahead. It says about a year ago, same article. Photograph of a dinosaur was shown to a scientist of natural repute who was then specialized in dinosaurs. He said, "It is not a dinosaur. It is impossible because we know that dinosaurs were extinct 12 million years before man appeared on Earth. So it has to be something else in the picture, basically." I have a couple rocks. Just run through the rocks real fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are just different rocks that have carvings of dinosaurs on them from Inca. Then we have a textile. This is an Incan blanket next. Past that. Keep going. There it is. Boom. Right on the blanket. Give me the next one of the blanket. It's a little bit better picture. Or that's what the blanket shows. Next one. There it is. Top and bottom. 2 different colors. One more. Here it is cleaned up. Uno más. Okay. A guy named Dennis Swift, a doctor that went to the jungles of Cambodia to the temple built in 1150 AD. Built in 1150 AD. Give me the next picture. On that temple, there's this. Looks like a dog. Must be a dog. No? No? Does it look like a dinosaur to y'all? Because it looks like one to me. Okay. Next. All right, this is in, I skipped some myself. All right. In this region, there are these legends, but when basically the white dudes came, give me the next one, they had all these carvings of dinosaurs made out of jade, ceramic, and all this, that anywhere from inches to feet long. The next one is a picture of those carvings of different dinosaurs these people had. They had buried them to keep them from people finding them. Give me the next one. In 1572, Italian scientists obtained the dead body of a dragon that a farmer had killed, and he had it mounted for a museum display. It's actually very small. I've read the story on it. It came in front of his ox and started hissing, and the ox wouldn't move. It was about the size of a dog. He was able to kill it by hitting it with a stick. But it was definitely a reptilian creature on 2 legs that was as big as a dog, and 2 to 4 legs, excuse me. Next drawing, another cave drawing. Just saying, I don't know what that is. If that's a natural formation, I just am baffled. Looks like a pterosaur or a pterodactyl. Those in the top corner are knives. These are Roman artifacts that were found in Arizona. Hear me out. Yeah, Arizona. If you think Columbus is the first white dude to set foot on this continent, I'm sorry, but there's that public school system again. Half my family is Cherokee Indian, and I believe they was here. I'm still okay with Columbus Day. I'm not one of those people at all. I don't have enough of that in me to be one of those people. But that's a picture of the artifacts. Tucson, Arizona, found Roman artifacts. On that knife, there was a picture of a long-necked dinosaur. Here it is again. That's an actual blade. Next, missionary to Greenland drew a sketch of this sea monster. That sea monster they saw off the coast of Greenland in 1734. Next, you had a 60-foot sea monster seen by Captain Peter in 1848. Next, that's an octopus. Now, I've been a scuba diver most of my life. That's not something you see very often because I'm in the Atlantic. I'm not a big Pacific guy. But they're not that big. 8 foot from tentacle to tentacle is about it. That's a large grown octopus. This octopus that was found in 1896, it is giant. Actually, if you give me the next picture, it was 200 feet across. Not a squid, an octopus. We don't know what's down there. We know more about the moon than we do about our oceans. We know we've had sonar technology in the Marianas Trench. 20 foot in diameter, this huge sonar with steel cables that all of a sudden the sound pierced everybody's ears. This is fairly recent. They didn't know what had happened, so they bring this big 20-foot steel ball back up, or 10-foot steel ball, back up on steel cables. 2 of the steel cables are broke. There's a tooth stuck in the side of it, and it's crushed. Shaped like a shark's tooth, but very, very big. So whether or not Megalodon is, I know Megalodon is teaching our youth right now, but Megalodon the shark, her dad's in my phone as Megalodad, so anyway. All right, finishing up. A whale killed near Seattle. Had a 150-foot octopus arm in its stomach. Not squid, octopus, and a whale. Yep, on the beach. So if all this about dinosaurs living with man is true, our dinosaurs mentioned in the Bible, they're all over the Bible. The Lord answered Job in a whirlwind, it said. In a whirlwind, he said, if a tornado starts to talk to you, next slide, I think, do I have it? Okay, you listen. When a tornado speaks, you listen. And if a tornado's saying, Job, you listen, okay? That's not your job. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. You talk about your pay grade here. I just don't know what to do with you. One of the things he says to Job is, have you entered the springs of the sea? We just found this in the 1970s, that there were actually springs in the bottom of the sea. He goes also, he says, behold now Behemoth, which I made. He eats grass like an ox. All right, Behemoth in your Bible. Probably on the side you'll get this. Possibly a hippopotamus or an elephant. King James says that. Now, here's an elephant. That's an elephant, in case you didn't know. That's a heffalump, elephant. Give me the hippopotamus. That's a hippopotamus. He did say that Behemoth has this huge belly. Both of them do. But he goes on to say, also you got this dinosaur, has a big belly. Boom. But God goes on to say that he moves his tail. His tail is like a cedar tree. Sinews of his stones wrapped together. Now, give me that elephant again. That don't look like a cedar tree.
Nope.
You ever seen a hippopotamus tail? It's a flap of skin. And all it does is fling stuff for them. That don't look like a cedar tree either. He goes on to say his bones are strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. Give me the brontosaurus or brachiosaurus toe bone. That's the toe bone. Hit that on something at night, you won't feel a thing. National Geographic 1993 shows this picture of a leg. Have a child in Glen Rose, Texas, sitting in a dinosaur track. There's that leg again at full length to the shoulder. The Bible says this about Behemoth. It says he is the chief of God's ways. The chief of God's ways. And no sword can approach him. The chief of God's ways means that it has to be the biggest thing God created. By saying the chief of God's ways, what he is saying is it's the largest animal God created. It cannot be an elephant or a hippo. Those aren't the largest things he created. Currently, the largest animal that we know of is the blue whale. Chief of God's ways, looking in the, I'll break that down next week for you, but I'm skipping through these because I've got to finish. I am done. Give me the sea monster that was found. It's it's number 164. 4,000 pounds, 32 foot long. You've seen this in pictures probably before. New Zealand, 1977. It was dead, rotting, and a lot of people said it's a whale carcass. Okay, next picture. A little bit closer up. Next picture. The scientist that got it actually drew this picture of it, laid out. There's a million things we could say about this. Decomposing flesh, who knows? But give me the one after the map on the head of the dinosaur. It's number 169. This is an actual picture of a animal washed up on the sea, on the shore. That's its body outlined. Head, the same head you just saw, body outlined. Next. 20 feet long, the neck alone. This is his explanation. He says, my examination of the monster neck's 20 feet long. I would call it a type of plesiosaurus. This is the scientist working on it. He said, I would call it a type of plesiosaurus. Now, I'm done. We got to go. Here's the other part. How many times do you hear about giants being found? Have you ever heard of a site of giants? Not from Discovery Channel. That doesn't count. But have you ever seen a news article on in Goshen or in Egypt or anywhere in Asia Minor them finding a whole burial site of 9-foot, 10-foot, 11, 12-foot people? No. In 1800, I think it was 1896, newspaper came out showing pictures of it, pictures of the body, the bones, the burial sites. Dozens and dozens and dozens. It was a community. You don't hear about it. It's hard to find now. You can Google it. Good luck. You're going to find everything on the new Discovery Channel giant guys. But we're told those are myths, that it's a myth from the Bible. Yet we have bones. We have a mummified finger in Egypt that's on display that if you take this 11-inch finger, mummified of this pharaoh whatever, he was probably 14 foot tall. Or he just had really weird hands. I don't know. But you don't ever hear about it because it doesn't fit their religion. Remember Mr. Johnson's class last week? Mr. Johnson's 6th grade teacher tells his kids, asks his kids, where'd the universe come from? Big Bang. Where did people come from? Organic soup, lightning. Little Tommy and Johnny, what'd they say? They said, well, my dad taught me that we all came from God. Yeah, where'd he learn that? From the Bible? Well, this Bible's no good for scientific data, but it's really good if you want to learn how to be a moral person or even some historical evidence, but not scientific. It has not one scientific truth in it, is what he says. And now you have a whole group of 6-year-old kids, 6th grade kids that are questioning their parents for the first time in their life. And you wonder why you got attitude problems at home. If you homeschool, I have nothing to say. If they got an attitude problem, that's just humanity. And I say that because 6th grade science class almost ruined me. And I had to argue with the teacher, which is not something I suggest doing. But I just want you to know as we continue going, which next week will be slides. I'm not reading anything. I'm going to stand up and point slides out to you, slower than this, and discuss what we're seeing. We're going all the way back to Darwin, the logical explanation, moral explanation, theological explanation, and why morally, logically, I don't see how you can line up. Morally, there's no way you can line up with this. Morally, there's no way. Not when communism, racism, Nazism, they were all birthed out of this, and all the leading figures of that say that, if not for Darwin and evolution. So morally, you can't line up with it either. Either you agree with the first verse of the Bible, which is the most scientific verse ever found, or you don't. So let's pray, and we'll rock out of here. Father God, help us to see that there's two sides to this, Lord. That there's an agenda, both sides. I have an agenda just like they have an agenda. I want people to see the Bible for what it is. I want them to take it literally. I want them to understand how great and how big and how amazing their God is and what all he can do in 6,000 to 10,000 years. I want them to know that when you create something, you create it mature and fully functioning, just like Adam was mature and fully functioning, like the universe and the earth is mature and fully functioning. Lord, and to see that indoctrination, how far and how deep it has gone for an agenda to be pushed so man can exist without God. Lord, help us to start fighting and pushing back against this, teaching our kids and our grandkids and so on, that there's another side to this and there's scientific evidence in it as well. Lord, help us to see the truth. In Jesus' name,